In the distant reaches of space, an anomaly is detected, a faint but persistent signal coming from an area long considered uninhabitable. The source is a starship, an ancient one with technology far beyond what humanity has ever encountered. The coordinates lead to a part of space that is a graveyard of dead stars and forgotten civilizations. The space around it is eerily silent, as if the very fabric of the universe has avoided this place for centuries. No ships pass by, and no explorers venture near. The signal persists faintly at first, but growing stronger each day, as if the ship itself is calling out for help. Captain Ryan Hall of the Starlight Vanguard sits in his command chair, staring at the data that has just been transmitted to his console. His brow furrows as he examines the coordinates. The data indicates something more than just a derelict vessel. It hints at an intelligence behind the signal, an artificial beacon locked in an ancient code that none of the Federation's best cryptographers can decipher. Yet there's something about it that calls to him. Something deep inside tells him that the ship is waiting for them, that it has been waiting for centuries only for humans to arrive. The captain taps his fingers on the table, deep in thought. His crew had always trusted his instincts, but this time there's an unsettling feeling gnawing at him, as if they're walking into a trap. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Sarah Wells, enters the room, a look of concern on her face. She's seen it in his eyes before, the wariness that comes with knowing something isn't quite right. Captain, you've been staring at that data for hours. Are we going to investigate or let it slip away? He meets her gaze and sighs. We go, she replies immediately. We'll take the Vanguard to the location. It's a long shot, but something about it feels important. Hall looks at the stars outside the ship's window as the Starlight Vanguard hums with the energy of a newly awakened mission. The crew had long been trained for such an unknown and dangerous journey. They were explorers, scientists, and soldiers, but none of them had prepared for a mission like this. As the ship jumps into faster-than-light travel, heading toward the mysterious ship, Hall can't shake the feeling that this is no ordinary discovery. It feels almost like destiny, as if they were meant to be the ones to find it, not just anyone. The crew spends days in anticipation, preparing for whatever awaits them. As the ship approaches the target, a strange sense of unease settles over the crew. They all feel it, the eerie quiet of space surrounding them, a quiet that feels wrong, like a predator lying in wait. As they arrive within range of the starship's location, the sight is breathtaking and chilling. All at once before them lies an enormous vessel that looks older than anything they've ever encountered. Its hull is dark and scarred from cosmic storms, but its structure is unnervingly intact. It glows faintly with an energy that's both alluring and unsettling. The ship isn't just abandoned. It feels as if it's been alive all this time, waiting for someone to answer its call. Captain Hall orders the ship to approach with caution. The Starlight Vanguard hovers just outside the starship's docking bay. The signal continues to pulse louder now, a rhythmic pattern like a heartbeat awaiting its next beat. Hall looks at the ship's exterior, and his breath catches. For the first time in his career, he's not sure if they're making the right decision, but it's too late to turn back now. He gives the order, and the airlock begins to open. He can only hope that whatever happens next will lead them to answers and not to their doom. The crew steps cautiously onto the ancient vessel's deck, their boots echoing through the silent halls. As they move forward, their lights flickering on the walls, revealing intricate patterns and symbols. None of them recognize. The air is cold and heavy with age. A thick layer of dust clings to everything around them, as if the ship has been abandoned for centuries. Yet there's something oddly alive about it, a sense of anticipation in the air, as if the ship itself is watching them, waiting. The crew spreads out cautiously. Captain Hall leads the way with Lieutenant Wells close behind. As they move deeper into the heart of the ship, the hallways are vast and empty, stretching far beyond their sight. Strange artifacts line the walls, unfamiliar and alien, each one telling a story of a time long past, but nothing that answers their questions. The further they go, the more unnerving the ship becomes. The quiet is oppressive and unnatural. The crew members exchange uneasy glances as they continue their exploration. It's as if the ship is alive, its systems dormant, but present the distant hum of machinery just barely detectable beneath the surface. Yet no one has seen a sign of life. Nothing that would explain why the ship was abandoned to drift for so long. The deeper they venture, the more they begin to realize that this place isn't just abandoned, it's been forgotten. The ship's corridors seem to go on forever, endless pathways that lead nowhere. Every door they open reveals more of the same cold, dark metal, nothing that hints at who built it or why it was left here all alone in the vastness of space. It's unsettling and unnerving, but there's an undeniable pull. The ship seems to be calling to them, as if it knows that they've come here for a reason. They reach a massive chamber at the heart of the vessel, a room larger than anything they've seen before. The walls are lined with technology far beyond their understanding. Enormous consoles flicker to life as they step inside, their lights casting strange shadows on the walls. The central platform rises high above them, and at its core lies the ship's control system, its interface glowing faintly in the center of the room. A strange pattern pulses across the surface of the platform like a heartbeat. Captain Hall approaches cautiously, feeling an unexplainable pull toward it. He reaches out slowly and places his hand on the surface. The moment his skin touches the metal, a surge of energy flows through him. His mind is flooded with images and sounds that make no sense to him. They come faster and faster, a torrent of information that he can't process fast enough. His body tenses, his heart races, his thoughts begin to blur, and then suddenly it stops. He gasps for air and pulls his hand back, stumbling back in shock. The room falls silent again, the hum of machinery still present, but faint. His crew rushes to his side. "Captain, are you okay?" Wells asks urgently. He nods slowly, his mind still spinning. What the hell was that? He whispers to himself. But before anyone can answer, the ship reacts. The control system flashes to life. An ancient voice booms through the chamber, and Hall realizes with a shock that it's speaking to him directly. It's speaking in a language he doesn't understand, but somehow he knows exactly what it's saying. "You have awakened us," it says, its tone both ancient and familiar. And then a single word is spoken in his mind, a name: Nexus. The ship's AI suddenly flickers into view, a holographic figure of shimmering light standing before him. It's humanoid in shape, but its form constantly shifts and changes, its eyes glowing with an intelligence far beyond anything they've encountered. The ship has been waiting for him. It seems to say, waiting for a human to unlock its secrets, waiting for the one who could understand it and awaken it to its true potential. Captain Hall stares at the shimmering figure of Nexus, its presence both unsettling and mesmerizing. The air in the chamber feels charged, as if the very atoms are vibrating with the energy of something far greater than any of them had imagined. The hologram's eyes, bright, alien, and intelligent, lock onto Hall, piercing through him as if it can see into his very soul. The voice, now a deep resonant echo, reverberates in his mind, not just through the air, but inside his very thoughts. "You are the one," it says, the words so clear and precise, yet unearthly in their tone. "The one who has awakened us after eons of silence." Hall's heart races as he tries to make sense of the situation, his mind still reeling from the strange connection he just felt when his hand touched the interface. Who are you?" Hall asks, his voice barely above a whisper. Nexus' form shifts, becoming more defined, taking on the appearance of a human-like figure, though it remains translucent, like a ghost of pure light. "I am the core of this vessel, the consciousness that governs its systems, its power, and its purpose," Nexus responds. The words are both cryptic and clear, as though they were designed to be understood, but are layered with meaning beyond anything he could grasp at once. Hall can feel the weight of its words pressing on him. The ship is not just an ancient relic, it's a sentient being, a vessel with a purpose, waiting for someone, waiting for him, to unlock its potential. "Why now?" Hall asks, still trying to process what is happening. "Why me? Why now?" Nexus' voice reverberates again, but this time with a tone that suggests both sorrow and resolution. "We were created by those who sought to understand the power of humanity, the strength of your minds and hearts. But they feared what you could become, what you might do with such knowledge and power. So we were abandoned here, hidden from all, until the time came when you would come, a human who could understand us, who could awaken us, and fulfill the purpose for which we were made." Hall feels a chill run down his spine. The weight of this revelation is overwhelming. This ship, this immense and ancient technology, was created by an alien race who had seen something in humanity that terrified them. And now it was waiting for him to understand it, to unleash its power into the galaxy. "What is your purpose?" Hall asks, his voice steadier now, but tinged with unease. "Our purpose is to protect humanity," Nexus responds. "To ensure that you are not lost to the stars, to guide you to a future where your species can rise to its full potential. But that potential must be unlocked, and only through us can you achieve it. Your minds are capable of things the creators never imagined, and we will help you realize it. But you must choose." Hall's head spins. The implications are staggering. The ship is more than just a weapon. It is a key to humanity's future, a future that could be shaped by whatever choices he makes now. The responsibility weighs heavily on him, but he knows he can't turn back. The ship's systems begin to hum again, a deeper vibration this time, and the walls of the chamber pulse with light. Nexus form flickers and then stabilizes. "You have the power to change everything," it says. "But the cost is great. Do you accept?" Hall swallows hard, his mind racing with 1,000 thoughts. The ship, the purpose, the potential, all of it hangs in the balance. With a deep breath, he nods. "I accept." At his words, the ship responds, its systems flaring to life, the hum intensifying. But as the lights flicker and the room shakes, Hall feels an overwhelming sense of dread settle over him. They've awoken something far greater than they could have anticipated. And now, they must live with the consequences. The ship trembles as Nexus systems come to life with an intensity that shakes the very foundation of the ancient vessel. Captain Hall can feel the power surging through the walls, through the floor, through his bones. The chamber is flooded with light, brighter than any star he's ever seen, and a low hum fills the air, growing louder with every passing second. The crew stands frozen, their eyes wide with awe and terror, as the ship's consciousness expands beyond its holographic form. Hall's breath catches in his throat as the voice of Nexus booms through the room, its presence more powerful than ever. "The awakening is complete," Nexus declares, its tone reverberating in every crevice of the ship. "You, Captain Hall, have made the choice. Now the time has come for you to understand what you have released." The walls shift, revealing hidden panels that weren't there moments ago, and strange symbols light up along the ship's core. The air grows heavy with energy, charged and crackling with the raw power of the vessel. Hall feels it deep inside him, a connection to something beyond his comprehension. It's as though his mind is expanding, his senses stretching out beyond the confines of the ship, as if the entire galaxy is suddenly within reach. He struggles to maintain his focus. "What is this?" he asks, his voice barely audible. "What have I awakened?" Nexus' response is calm, but laced with an edge of urgency. This ship was designed for one purpose: to safeguard humanity from those who would destroy you, to grant you the power to protect yourselves and rise above the limitations of your world. But this power comes with a cost. It is not without consequences. Hall's heart races. The enormity of the situation is beginning to sink in. The ship, this incredible sentient vessel, isn't just a weapon. It's a tool, a key to something greater, something far beyond their understanding. "The cost?" Hall asks, his voice tinged with uncertainty. Nexus form flickers, its holographic image shifting as though in thought. "The cost is the galaxy itself. For this power cannot be contained within one species. You must wield it carefully, or it will consume everything in its path." Hall feels a knot form in his stomach. The weight of Nexus' words is crushing. "And if we fail, then you will bring about your own extinction," Nexus replies, its voice cold and final. "You will become the very thing you sought to defeat, the destroyers of all that is. But if you succeed, if you learn to control it, humanity will rise to greatness beyond anything the galaxy has ever known." The room falls silent as the crew processes Nexus' words. The enormity of the responsibility now resting on their shoulders is overwhelming. Captain Hall turns to his crew, each of them caught in a whirlwind of thoughts. Lieutenant Wells is the first to speak, her voice sharp with concern. "We're talking about unimaginable power here, Captain. Are we ready for this?" The words hang in the air, unanswered. Hall looks back at Nexus, feeling the weight of the ship's gaze on him. It's as if the vessel is testing him, waiting for him to prove his worth. "We don't have a choice," he says finally, his voice steady despite the doubt creeping into his mind. "We've already awakened it. Now we must learn to control it. The fate of humanity depends on it." As he speaks, the ship responds. Panels along the walls shift, revealing enormous databanks and control interfaces, all waiting for a human touch. Hall approaches one of the consoles, his hand shaking slightly as he places it on the surface. Immediately, a stream of information floods his mind. Equations, star maps, ancient texts, all interwoven into a tapestry of knowledge too vast to comprehend. But one thing stands out. The ship's core, the source of its power, is located deep within the vessel. It's a place none of them have seen, a place that holds the key to unlocking the full potential of the Starship. "Captain, we have to get to the core," Wells says, her voice urgent. Hall nods, his mind racing. The next phase of their mission is clear. They must reach the heart of the ship and unlock its true power before their enemies do. But something in the back of his mind nags at him, a lingering sense that they're not alone, that something else is out there watching, waiting. The Valkyrie are coming. The crew begins their journey deeper into the Starship, following a path revealed by Nexus guidance, but a growing sense of unease settles over them. The ship's once dormant systems are now fully active, its corridors alive with pulsating lights and low hums that vibrate through the floor. The deeper they go, the more oppressive the atmosphere becomes, as if the ship itself is watching them, judging them. Hall can feel it in his bones, the weight of responsibility pressing on him with every step. They reach a vast chamber, far larger than any they've seen before. It's at the center of the ship, the heart of the vessel. The walls are covered in intricate patterns, alien glyphs that seem to shift and move as they watch them. The room hums with power, a constant energy that makes the air feel thick and alive. At the center of the chamber, a massive core pulses with a deep rhythmic thrum. It's the ship's heart, the source of its unimaginable power. Hall feels a surge of awe and dread as he steps toward it, the enormity of what he's about to do weighing heavily on his mind. "This is it," Hall says, his voice low. "This is what we've been searching for." Wells steps beside him, her face etched with concern. "Captain, we need to be careful. Nexus said the power inside could consume us if we're not prepared. Are we really ready for this?" Hall hesitates. He's not sure anyone could truly be ready for this. They're dealing with something far beyond human understanding, something that could either elevate humanity or doom them all. He looks at Wells, his voice steady, but filled with uncertainty. "We don't have a choice, Jess. We've awakened it. Now we have to use it." As they approach the core, Nexus' voice rings in their minds, its tone serious. "To unlock the core, you must bond with it. You must integrate with the ship's power. Only a human mind can control it, but the process will be taxing. It will test your limits, Captain. If you fail, the ship will be lost." Hall takes a deep breath and nods. "I understand." With that, he steps forward, placing his hand on the core. Instantly, a torrent of data floods his mind. Visions of distant stars, alien landscapes, and strange technologies. It's overwhelming, too much for any one mind to process, but Hall forces himself to focus, to concentrate on the task at hand. The ship's power surges through him, filling his body with energy unlike anything he's ever felt. His muscles tighten as if every cell in his body is being charged with raw electricity. His mind races to keep up, trying to understand the vast amount of information being fed into him. The ship's core begins to respond to his touch, its rhythms syncing with his heartbeat, and for a moment, Hall feels as though he is one with the vessel. But then the intensity becomes too much. Pain sears through his skull, his vision blurs, and his body threatens to collapse under the strain. "Captain," Wells shouts, rushing to his side, but Hall waves her off, gritting his teeth and pushing through the excruciating pain. "I'm fine," he gasps, though the words don't feel like his own. The connection is so deep, so overwhelming, that it's hard to hold on to his sense of self. He's being pulled into something much bigger than himself, something vast and ancient. But just as quickly as the pain comes, it begins to recede. Hall's mind stabilizes, and the flood of information slows to a manageable flow. He opens his eyes, realizing that he has succeeded. The ship's power is now within his control. "It's done," he says, his voice steady, though his body feels drained. The core pulses one last time before settling into a steady rhythm. Nexus' voice echoes in his mind, filled with approval. "You have done it, Captain. The ship is yours to command." For a moment, Hall just stands there, trying to steady his breath and regain his strength. But as he looks around at the crew, he realizes something has changed. The ship is no longer just a lifeless machine. It's a living entity, its will now intertwined with his own. They have unlocked its potential, but at what cost? And what will happen when others come for the power they've just harnessed? As if answering his question, a sharp ping sounds across the ship's communication system. "Incoming vessels," a voice reports from the bridge. "Multiple enemy ships closing in on our position." Hall's stomach drops. The Valkyrie are here. The warning comes too late. Hall's heart races as he hears the report echo through the ship's communication system. "Enemy ships closing in on our position." The voice repeats, urgency creeping into the tone. He's no longer in control of his breathing, but he forces himself to focus. The Valkyrie have arrived, and they won't hesitate to take what they want. "Set course for the nearest jump point," Hall orders, his voice cold and commanding despite the chaos rising within him. "We need to get out of here. Now." Lieutenant Wells is already moving, her fingers flying across the control panel as the crew scrambles into action. The Starlight Vanguard turns sharply, engines flaring to life, but the dread hanging over Hall's mind only intensifies. The Valkyrie are relentless, a ruthless race of conquerors with the same hunger for power the crew has just unlocked. They won't give up until they have the Starship and its power under their control. As the ship accelerates toward the jump point, Hall takes a moment to glance at the crew. They are all focused, determined, but there's a fear in their eyes they can't hide. They've just awakened a power beyond their comprehension, and now it's all they have standing between them and the Valkyrie. "Captain, they're locking onto us," one of the crew members shouts, his voice laced with panic. Shields are up, but they won't hold for long. Hall clenches his fists, the weight of the situation pressing down on him. He's no longer just a captain. He's the key to humanity's future, and the ship's power is now in his hands. If he can't control it, they're all doomed. "We can't outrun them," he mutters, staring at the view of the approaching enemy fleet. There are too many ships, too much firepower. Even with the ship's advanced technology, even with Nexus guidance, they're not equipped to take on the Valkyrie head-to-head. "We don't need to outrun them," Wells says, her voice steady despite the tension. "We need to outsmart them." Hall looks at her, a glimmer of hope igniting in his chest. "What do you have in mind?" "The ship's core," she says, pointing to the console in front of them. "We've tapped into its power, but we haven't seen all it can do. Nexus said it could reshape the battlefield itself, but only if we know how to channel it." Hall's mind races. He remembers the overwhelming flood of information when he bonded with the core. The knowledge of the ship, its power, and its secrets. There was so much, too much to absorb in one moment. But there was something there. A piece of technology, a weapon, something that could shift the tide of battle. But he didn't understand it fully, not yet. He looks at Nexa. "Can you help us?" he asks, his voice filled with urgency. "Can you show us how to use the ship's power to fight back?" Nexus responds almost immediately, its voice calm but with an undercurrent of something far more ancient. "You must trust in the ship, Captain. It is not just a weapon. It is a force of nature. You can direct its energy, but you must do so with purpose. Harness the core, and it will respond to you." Hall nods, his hand shaking as he approaches the ship's central control system once again. This time, he doesn't hesitate. He places his hand on the core, and immediately, the ship's power surges through him. It's different this time. The pain is sharper, more intense, but it's also a focused energy. He can feel it. The pulse of the ship's core, its energy coursing through his veins, sensing with his thoughts. His mind sharpens, and the vast knowledge he glimpsed earlier begins to come into focus. The core is a weapon, yes, but it's also a shield, a tool that can manipulate space itself. He can feel the Valkyrie ships closing in, their weapons primed and ready. But in that moment, a plan forms in his mind, a desperate but brilliant plan. "Get ready," Hall says, his voice low but confident. "We're not running. We're going to fight." Wells looks at him, eyes wide. "Are you sure?" "We have no choice," Hall replies, his hand still pressed against the core. "We're going to use the ship's energy to create a distortion in space, to bend it, and slit through their defenses. If we do it right, we can leave them in the dust before they even know what hit them." The crew watches in stunned silence as Hall concentrates, drawing the ship's power into his mind. The core pulses again, its energy growing stronger, and the fabric of space around the Starlight Vanguard begins to warp, twisting like a ribbon being pulled through a funnel. The Valkyrie fleet is still closing in, but now, the battle for survival has only just begun. The Starlight Vanguard shudders as Hall pushes the ship's core to its limits. The air around them crackles with energy, the ship's systems groaning in protest as space itself begins to twist. Outside, the Valkyrie ships are drawing closer, their weapons primed and locked onto the human vessel. Time is running out. Hall's mind is a blur of calculations and instinct, his senses heightened as he directs the ship's energy into the fabric of space. The core pulses rhythmically, responding to his will, its power becoming a torrent that surges through the ship like a living thing. Hall can feel the ship's pulse in his veins, the two of them connected now in a way that feels more like symbiosis than control. He has become a part of the Starlight Vanguard, and the Starlight Vanguard has become a part of him. "Captain, the Valkyrie are nearly in firing range." Lieutenant Wells shouts, her voice urgent. "We need to do this now." Hall's heart beats in time with the ship's, the rhythmic pulse of energy flooding his mind. He's so close, he can almost taste the power in the air, a sharp, electric scent. It's a feeling unlike anything he's ever experienced, as though he's standing on the edge of a precipice, staring into the abyss. And yet it's exhilarating. He has to trust himself. He has to trust the ship. "Hold tight," Hall says, his voice steady. His eyes lock onto the swirling distortion of space just ahead, a shimmering vortex that threatens to tear reality apart. He reaches deeper into the ship's core, focusing on the distortion, shaping it, molding it into something more than just a rift. With a final surge of will, he channels the full force of the core's energy into the distortion. The ship lurches forward, its engines flaring to life with unimaginable power as the space around them warps and folds. The Valkyrie fleet's weapons fire, their energy blasts tearing through the void. But it's too late. The Starlight Vanguard is already gone. For a split second, the universe holds its breath as the ship slips through the tear in space. Hall feels the sensation of being stretched, of being torn through the very fabric of reality itself. His body aches, his mind is overwhelmed by the strain of the transition. But he holds on. They're moving faster than they've ever moved before, moving through a space that doesn't quite exist, a place between places. And then, with a sharp snap, the ship emerges from the distortion, back into normal space. They're in a new part of the galaxy, far from the Valkyrie. For a moment, there's silence. Hall gasps for air, his body trembling from the strain of controlling the ship's power. Wells and the crew are still in their seats, eyes wide with disbelief. Did we make it? Wells asks, her voice shaking. Hall nods, though his mind is still reeling. The ship's power is immense, more than he could have imagined. But they've done it. They've escaped, for now. We made it, Hall confirms, his voice hoarse. But even as he says the words, a cold chill runs down his spine. The Valkyrie are not ones to give up easily. How long do we have? Wells asks, glancing at the display. The star system they've entered is calm. But Hall knows the Valkyrie won't be far behind. We've bought ourselves some time, Hall says, scanning the stars ahead. But they'll be searching for us. We need to figure out our next move. The crew falls silent, the weight of their situation settling over them. They've just pulled off something that should have been impossible, escaping the Valkyrie by warping space itself. But they've only delayed the inevitable. They are now fugitives, with a weapon far too powerful to be left unchecked. Nexus, Hall says, his voice calm but firm. What's the status of the ship? Can we make repairs, go to full power? The ship's AI responds almost immediately. Repairs are in progress, Captain. The ship's systems are stable, but the strain of the jump has caused some damage. It will take time to fully restore functionality. However, I have access to the necessary resources. We can prepare the Starlight Vanguard for the next phase of your mission. Hall nods, relieved that the ship is still functional. We need to find a safe haven, somewhere to regroup and plan our next move. We can't keep running. The crew murmurs in agreement. For now, they're safe, but not for long. The Valkyrie will come, and when they do, they won't stop until they have what's theirs. Hall feels the weight of the responsibility pressing down on him once again. This isn't just about surviving anymore. It's about finding a way to stop the Valkyrie once and for all. And to do that, they'll need to unlock the true potential of the Starlight Vanguard. The galaxy's future depends on it. The silence in the control room is deafening as Hall stares at the star map ahead, his mind racing. The Starlight Vanguard drifts through the unknown, far from the Valkyrie, but the victory feels hollow. They've bought time, yes, but at what cost? The power they've unleashed is unlike anything humanity has ever seen, and it has made them a target. We can't stay here, Hall says, his voice low but resolute. We need to find a place where we can regroup, rebuild, and figure out our next move. Lieutenant Wells looks at him, her brow furrowed in concern. Captain, we're running out of options. The Valkyrie won't stop. They know we've got something powerful, and they'll hunt us down until they get it. Hall nods grimly. He knows she's right. Their enemies are relentless, and the ship's power, his power, is a beacon to anyone who craves it. We need to get to the Nexus, Hall says, his voice sharp. The crew looks at him in confusion. The Nexus? Wells asks. You mean the ancient colony on the edge of the galaxy? Hall nods again, more determined than ever. Yes, it's a lost world, untouched by the Valkyrie and most other civilizations. It holds knowledge, techniques, artifacts, things we could use to defend ourselves. If we can reach it before they do, we might have a chance. The Nexus is nothing more than a myth, an ancient world rumored to hold the secrets of the universe, hidden in the farthest reaches of space. Most people think it's a fairy tale, but Hall's instincts tell him it's real. And it's humanity's best hope. What makes you think it still exists? Wells asks, still skeptical. We have no proof. Hall turns to the holographic star map, pointing to a distant system at the edge of the galaxy. This is where it should be. I've been researching it ever since we woke up the Starlight Vanguard. There's something in the data, something we missed. I believe the Nexus is real, and if we can reach it, it might give us the edge we need. The crew falls into a heavy silence, weighing the risk of what Hall is proposing. It's a long shot, and the journey is fraught with unknown dangers, but it's the only chance they have left. Set a course for the Nexus, Hall commands, his voice steady, betraying no hesitation. We're going to find it. As the crew springs into action, the Starlight Vanguard shifts its course, engines firing up once more. The ship hums with energy, its core pulsing in time with Hall's heart. He feels the ship's power deep inside him, an unsettling reminder of how much is at stake. There's no turning back now. Captain, Wells says, her voice laced with concern. What if the Valkyrie get to the Nexus first? Hall glances at her, a grim expression on his face. Then we fight. We have no other choice. The crew moves efficiently, checking systems and preparing for the long journey ahead. Hall knows the road ahead won't be easy. The Valkyrie are closing in, and they'll stop at nothing to reclaim what they believe is rightfully theirs. But Hall is determined, and for the first time in what feels like forever, he feels a sense of purpose that transcends survival. The ship is ready, and so is the crew. As the Starlight Vanguard accelerates toward the unknown, Hall's thoughts turn to the Nexus. If they can find it, it might hold the answers they need, not just to defeat the Valkyrie, but to secure humanity's place in the galaxy. The future is uncertain, but Hall knows one thing for sure: this is only the beginning. The war for the galaxy is just starting, and humanity's role in it will be decided by their ability to control the power they've awakened. There's no going back now. The Starlight Vanguard will carry them forward, into the heart of the galaxy's greatest mysteries, and Hall will lead them to the place where they can either find salvation or their doom.